You're listening to the Light Novel Podcast. Visit us online at lightnovelpodcast.com.
Hello and welcome to the Light Novel Podcast. I'm your host, BioGundam, and today we're going to be covering the series Emeth, the Island of Golems. And joining me today is almost the entire gang. So we have Flies.
Yo, what ups?
We have John Luke.
Hello, people.
We have Mirage.
Good morning.
And Terrence.
What's up?
Right, so I didn't have enough time to read Emeth, Island of Golems, because I've been incredibly busy and shit just happens to pile up. So before we start off, what is Emeth, Island of Golems about?
Yeah,
About
so
the island and people who live there make lots of golems.
yes, so the golems, basically, this island has this like clock tower or whatever that allows the golems to move. It's based in the church called the Tora church, and it allows golems to basically exist on this island. Golems pretty much just like automatons almost. They're pieces of scrap metal just kind of slammed together to make a body. They can take on multiple shapes or forms, but the big thing is that the golems have to have a remote incantation put on their bodies. It's basically just like code or instructions that say, you know, how the arms and the limbs move. They don't get into too much detail about it, but the big thing that they do say is each golem needs a restrictor to be able to move, and a restrictor is basically something that restricts their action. So, for instance, the main character puts on his golem that he can't harm or kill humans. So, with that restrictor, basically, if it kills a human, the golem will die. It'll cease to exist. And there are other ones like this golem can only function for 2 hours a day. So it can't go beyond that limit. It'll just shut down for the day. And yeah, so that's the setup of the world sphere for it. It is a world where there are people living in poverty, which is kind of our main character. Cliff, he's an orphan, and he lives basically in the slums. There are railway stations that were abandoned, subway stations, because they have a new like above ground train system or something. But anyways, he lives in the slums, and he works for illegal golem tamers and golem artificers, people that make golems illegally. And it basically just means that they make golems with parts they find. And in this world, only the church can allow people to make golems. So there's kind of this whole class system kind of thing with the church ruling over the little people and saying whether they can or can't make golems. And it's pretty much just you have to pay a fee to be able to make them legally.
Yeah, and our main character's like, I don't have money, so fuck that bureaucracy.
Yeah. And so, you know, basically comes at odds with the rabbis from the Torah church who come and confiscate all of his golem materials. They break up the shop that he's working for, this Akizu company, and they steal all the golem parts, and he's going to go and take them back. So he travels to the prestigious Head Island where all the rich people live, and he goes to try to steal his items back. It's a very small kind of story start, but then this girl Level shows up and it becomes this whole grand adventure. She stole this like red cube from this boy named Jair. Again, story gets kind of like big, but basically there's this boy named Jair. He has these cubes. He can put them in the ground and it creates a golem from, say, dirt or from debris. He can create golems basically on command. And that's not the way you're supposed to create them. You're supposed to incant and like actually build something to make them.
The more I hear this terminology, I'm just more reminded of like freaking Old Testament, like sons of Israel now build golems. Like it's literally like I'm getting all these Old Testament vibes.
Yeah, well, the church, they say it's modeled on like obviously rabbis. It is kind of modeled on that Old Testament kind of thing. But yeah, and then so this girl Level, she shows up and she's got this red cube and she's she basically goes to the church to give it to them, to say, there's this boy named Jair that wants to destroy your church. I'm going to give you this, cube, and, just trust me on this, and, keep an eye out for this boy and take him out before he can take you out. And instead, the church, the officer at the church, it's a young woman, she decides to try to arrest Lovell. Like,
Okay,
Lovell's
now
trying to
this
help them.
reminded me of New Testament. So the main character is Jesus, and he's trying to fight against the old establishment that goes against God's wisdom. Okay, all right, I'm liking this already.
Like one question, like
yeah.
Because for people listening, I didn't read it also, so I'm gonna ask a bunch of questions.
Yeah.
So, is there anyone that makes like Golem that doesn't have any restriction? Like, does the Red Cube do that?
It's kind of hard for me to say if it does or doesn't, because two of the golems that I know were made from the red cubes do have restrictors, but I don't know if they needed them. The big thing with those cubes are that you can just kind of like birth something out of nothing. You can kind of write what the code is on the cube itself and then insert it into whatever you want, and it'll basically take the form of that. But yeah, long story short, these characters, you find out later, this guy Jair, he's trying to collect all the red cubes again. Lovell, you find out, stole it from him to basically keep the red cube from him so he couldn't unearth the ultimate weapon, which is named Sephiroth, of course. This is a Square Enix title, and there's a golem named Sephiroth, and it's the big baddie at the end, kind of.
Sephiroth's film, like theme plays in the background, and then Cloud gets his Buster Sword and cuts him in half, and then he gets revived as the savior, and mankind is now forgiven of all their sins. Like, this is a great book.
But yeah, the whole story, I'm presenting it, and it's maybe, I don't know if it's sounding any coherent, but it gets much more incoherent. It gets much more into like creating life, taking responsibility for creating life. I think they're trying to do some allusions to like orphaning Cliff in the beat down town. Him becoming an orphan. Should his parents have given birth to him or whatever? I don't know, but like just the idea of like you need to take responsibility if you create life. That's kind of a message. But there's a ton of weird messages in the story. They don't all really connect. I felt like the classist thing that they kind of talk about at the beginning between like the church and, those impoverished, they never really like solve it, like they never like, oh, they took down the church and now everything's going to be great for everybody that lives on the island. Like, I don't think they ever really got that across. Like, they never really deal with it.
Yeah, but,
Wow.
Isn't it just a setup for the story, like a background thing?
I mean, it definitely could have been more because there are some other characters that are involved. One of the main plot points that I'll spoil, we're just going to talk on the whole thing. So one of the main plot points is this girl Lovell. You find out later that her mother was a prostitute, and that she lived, on Chest Island or whatever. And she was going to give up her daughter. She was going to have, a
prostitute.
A prostitute on Chest Island. Wow.
So she was gonna actually have an abortion and get rid of her baby, if I remember right. Or her other choice was to leave her baby at the church. And so I think she goes to Tora Church, and she's thinking of leaving her baby there for them to raise. And yeah, so definitely one of the things they push is that this mother, she ends up dying, and I don't think they ever fully explain why or how she died.
Listen, she just came
Yeah.
down with anime like mother disease. You know, they just die. You know, they give birth, and then kid grows up, and they're like, "Where's your mother?" And it's just like she just died. And, it just happens. They just drop like flies.
You know they do that for simplicity, right?
If they wanted to do anything for simplicity in this book, they failed.
So this mother, she dies, and the people that lived at the church, they kind of took care of the mother and also the kid. And when she dies, they get very bitter, and they blame the society and the whole golem system on why she died. Again, they never really show her death
in a society because she doesn't have Jesus in her life.
But yeah, she I don't know exactly what the story is trying to say, but it basically was saying that she died because the society demands. Maybe she died from some kind of obviously she's a prostitute, probably like some kind of STD or something like that.
Yeah,
and then
like slapping and rapping in this society.
Yeah, and so then if she hadn't had to take up such a dangerous kind of work, if the society didn't rely on golems and the people that couldn't use them were impoverished, then she would have lived. So the way this is presenting it, it does seem like, okay, well, golems are a bad thing, right? But the story ends up being people that are trying to take down the church and trying to stop golems from existing because this mother died and more people like her on the island are impoverished and will die or whatever in the future. They're trying to right that wrong. They're the bad guys. And the good guys are the ones trying to keep the golems.
Now that you're mentioning it, if it comes from Square Enix, it's pretty much the plot point of Final Fantasy VII. Like you're terrorists trying to bring down people that are harvesting like the planet's life force. So a bit of a similar concept, but with very different outcome.
I mean, this sounds like a side plot for a Final Fantasy game. Like, this is the prequel to Final Fantasy 20. Golems are evil, and we need to bring Jesus back into our lives. You've got to kneel before the Lord, people.
But yeah, I mean like...
The problem I had with this book is that it tries to tell... It feels like it tries to tell half a dozen stories at once. It is quite a long book compared to other light novels. It's just a one-shot, but it's a good twice as long as some others I've read. And the basic premise is that it has a good dozen characters. Neither of them are pretty well developed, but the story is basically characters meet, fight the bad guy, flee to another location, split up, meet up with other characters, fight another bad guy, split up, run to another location, meet other characters, fight another bad guy, and all the while...
So basically, there's no breathing time.
There's no
breathing
time at all. They're just moving from one fight to the next, and after the fight, they reveal another plot point, advance the story, move on to the next fight. It's just the same type of thing half a dozen times over the time of the novel. And it gets really old by the time you're 2/3 through the novel.
Honestly, this book could have maybe used another another volume or two, like if it's doing all these fucking plot points.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that it might have been better if it had been a three trilogy or something like that.
I mean, the best Fantasy comes in threes.
If they had taken the time to develop the characters a bit more, to give them time between these action scenes, to flesh out the world a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
For they even in this one book they reuse locations quite a lot.
Mm-hmm.
They are going to the church I think 3 times over the course of this book. First this group, then the other group, then both groups combined.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's this doctor character who I don't even remember how he fits in all of this. It's been a while since I read the book.
Yeah,
Listen,
okay.
It just fits in, okay?
Yeah.
Like, it just works.
Yeah.
So this doctor character, yeah. So I can add a little bit. There's this underground doctor character. I think he's also a professor, but he runs a clinic, and his big thing, he ends up being allied with the enemy, but he also kind of turns back to the good side at the end.
That's
Spoiler
another
alert.
thing. People are switching sides like underwear in this one volume.
So this doctor, he ends up meeting up with basically the real big baddie, the guy behind everything. And it turns out it's this guy, you know, spoiler, or like if you wanted to try this one, there's this.
We know it's the devil. We get it.
Yes. So there's this guy. He was the one that kind of came up with Sephiroth-ish, but what he wanted to do was use the red cubes to basically bring back that prostitute that died, the mother of Lovell. And after she died, you know, he stole all the cubes, all the research basically into Sephiroth, and he became a custodian actually at the school. Don't know why he decided to live in the school system and hide that way, but so he went to this underground doctor, and the doctor changed his face so that he could hide. And their whole thing was that they bonded over the loss of their loved ones, because that doctor's daughter died tragically, and it was like some disease or something she died from.
What the fuck is going on?
I know.
Yeah, that's
so
Just stick to the Bible, man. You don't have to make it this convoluted. Listen, good versus evil. It's not that hard.
So anyways, both these characters want to rebirth, you know, the loved ones that they lost, and they're actually going to do it with those red cubes. If you insert those red cubes, you just like coat it with the memories of your dead ones. And if you insert it into a living human body, it will basically be the embodiment of your daughter or girlfriend, wife, whatever it was. You know, it'll be the embodiment of that person. But it doesn't, I don't know. They try to say that the soul, you know, goes back into the body or something. Like, they don't ever actually say that's what happens, but they think of it as that. It's pretty much just like they're just reprogramming somebody's memories with this thing.
Wow.
With this cube.
Yeah, and because it's just so easy to simply program the personality of your loved one into something.
It is very convoluted. Now, this author did go on to make visual novel that I actually did enjoy called Root Double. But yeah, you can see like this feels, there are certain things in here that kind of feel so plot twisty, like just for the sake of being
honestly,
a plot twist.
This could have been like this needed a few rewrites. Like, I think this needs to go back into the oven.
Yeah, and we haven't even touched on like probably half the plot points.
Yeah,
so
but
like,
do I want to hear any more?
No.
Unless you didn't specify it, like didn't like Revel wouldn't have she wanted to bring back our mother as well? So
here's the big plot twist. Lovell has the soul of her mother in her body now because they put the red cube into Lovell. That's the big plot twist at the end. So you find out that Lovell, the past 5 days, Lovell has had her mother's memories in her mind or whatever. Okay, so it wasn't Lovell, it was her mom.
Basically she maybe wish she was still dead, so she want to undermine everything?
Yes, that was the whole plot, basically. She stole the cube so that she could undermine the whole plot that they had set up to try to bring her back, because obviously she wants her daughter to be alive. Maybe there were other ways to accomplish that, and she definitely could have been way more forthcoming with information, because she doesn't tell Cliff this whole thing until right at the end of the story. You obviously find out for revelation purposes, but it doesn't really make any sense why she would keep all this info hidden from him when she is trying to undermine this whole conspiracy and plot by these people to try to resurrect her.
Well,
And,
why do simple
keep it
when
open.
you can do complicated?
hey, isn't it like there's a thing? I think it's called like I forget it. I think it's called the something. I forget the name of the principle, but basically, like the most simplest answer is usually the best, the most simple. But the author here is just like, simple, nah, too easy. Let's do complicated.
It feels like this author just tried way too hard to make to put as many interesting things as possible into one book. Maybe they had time constraints and that's why they tried to shove it into one book or whatever. But it feels like they threw everything at the wall, but nothing actually like stuck.
Yeah, it feels like I mentioned earlier, before the cast, that it was technically an award winner, but it was Square Enix's awards, and they're the ones that published it. So it's almost like a rookie award. Yeah, it doesn't mean a whole lot.
We
But
at Square Enix have written this book, and we at Square Enix have found this book really great.
Yeah, one thing I also remember about this book is that half the plot points would have been moot if people were just questioning one another along the way. Most of the time they are either not believing what they are told or not asking the right and mostly obvious questions, and the question party always neglects to offer up important information even to friendly parties. And in one case it's so ridiculous that the interrogator offers up classified information to the one they are interrogating for no obvious reason.
Yeah, I do think some of it is pride, some of it is like trauma that they don't, converse more, but definitely there were some characters that definitely could have conversed more, especially Lovell. I mean, like Lovell / her mom. She could have told Cliff a little bit more. I mean, they had private scenes and private moments. I don't know. I mean, I guess she maybe didn't want to involve him more than he already was. But yeah, there were definitely some characters that I think could have said more. Other ones, I do see that there are excuses basically for why they weren't more forthcoming. Some characters, like one of them is like Kiriko. She's the one that kind of just flips off when Lovell shows up at the church with the cube, basically to say, "Oh, there's this guy, you got to stop him." And then she flips off and is like, "I'm arresting you because you stole that cube from the church." And if she,
I'm not sure if this is the same scene I'm thinking of, but there's one time when someone looks for someone and asks her about half the things he wants to know, and then just drops her off somewhere. Then he meets another person who has info and the item he's looking for, and he has reason to suspect he has both. Chats with him for a minute and leaves without asking for the item or asking any other relevant questions. So the plot is needlessly long. It could have been resolved in half the time if people just talked to another or asked the relevant questions.
Yeah, but I do think some of them definitely had a lot of excuses, like relevant excuses. But yeah, there definitely were some that definitely did not.
There are several such scenes in this novel, and even if you excuse half of them, then that leaves still a lot.
But yeah, I mean, not a whole lot more to say on this. We were, reading a review before this one came on that said it felt like, what did they say? Like coherent? They said that it didn't feel like a rambling plot. Yeah.
Let me pull it up.
Yeah, go read it out so we can shame this person.
No reason to shame, because it's obviously their opinion, but I just don't think it's true.
One thing I just remembered, they are talking about trash golems in this novel time and again, and I'm pretty sure what they meant was flesh golems.
Yeah, probably translation error.
A translation error.
Yeah, because flesh golems basically are the golems that you rewrite like a dead human to become a golem. Yeah,
so it's basically just like a zombie that you
basically. But in the novel, they're consistently called fresh golems, and I'm not sure if that is intentional or not.
I don't think so. No, because that sounds way more plausible. flesh golems.
Yes, it is. It's definitely what the author meant.
Like, going back to Bible references, isn't there like a Jewish story about a guy who makes golems and shit like that?
There may be. There's a lot of references to religion in this one. Like, even the golem names. All the golem names are religious.
Religion, but the stuff I do know, like, I'm getting a lot of, like, Jewish vibes from this. Like,
definitely.
The Tomara, the golem. I'm sure there's a Jewish story about golems. Let me look it up. Jewish story.
So
about golems.
They are consistently called fresh golems in this book. And I know R and L are letters that are easily mixed up in Japanese translations, but still, this is just doesn't.
Oh, you would think the translator would read it back to themselves and be like, this doesn't sound right.
Yeah.
Well,
listen,
people don't always
work.
Yeah, people don't always reread themselves. Trust me.
Yeah, but that's what editors are for.
Yeah.
I don't know what Cross Infinite Worlds process is. Like, I don't know. I know Justus talked about early on they were pretty much either one man or one woman company. Like, I don't know if at this point, how many people they had working for them, if they had full editing process. I don't know.
Well, I don't know, because I've never read a single one of their books.
Oh, okay,
they are not usually that bad.
Oh no, I'm just reading about golems. This is pretty fucking interesting.
Okay, so
anything more to say about Emeth? I think Bio, you had some
I was looking up that Jewish golem story. No, they didn't make it out of flesh. I was thinking of something else. Oh no, I was just like reading about it. It was this is kind of interesting. Save this for later.
Yeah, I think we've said all there is to say on this one. Pretty much all the major revelations, and just know that it's more convoluted than even I'm setting up.
So translation, it's shit.
For show notes and related links, visit lightnovelpodcast.com.